Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Just Talking About Sports. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Ethan.
And Ethan, what are we going to be doing today?
Just talking about sports.
Woo! And here we are in week 9 of the AP poll. Yes, we don't have 5 people this time. Get used to it. But that was super fun. Defending champion of Hex Trivia. If you haven't seen
there you go.
Haven't seen our 50th episode, please be sure to check that.
Link will be in the description.
Yes, sir. And here we go. Week 9. Not a lot of change at the top, but oh boy, am I excited for a couple of teams that I'll be talking about. Specifically, the last one. All right, here we go. Number 1, Gonzaga. Number 2, Baylor. Number 3, Villanova. No change. Nothing's happened with these 3 teams. They're the Kings right now. Villanova still has not played in a while. Tonight, 8 p.m. We are filming here on a Tuesday. It will be their first game now since December of 2020.
Oh, boy.
All right. Yeah, indeed. Number 4, Iowa. Number 5, Texas. They flipped spots from last week. Texas got destroyed by Matt McClung, buzzer beater. He is in Texas Tech. We'll discuss that shortly. Tennessee is at number 6, up 4 spots. Big week for the SEC's King. Not so big of a night, though. They are down 12 now with 15 minutes to play. Again, we record on Tuesdays. Tennessee in a bit of a rough hole here. And with that, we'll start with number 7. Michigan is not moved. But you may realize, there's a loss in that column now. So let's briefly explain the Minnesota Massacre, shall we?
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota. So Michigan was heading into its 4th consecutive ranked game. The Big Ten, like we've said, is brutal. It is ferocious. It is difficult. They felt it. They were dominating against some of the biggest teams, and then Minnesota sneaks in. No breaks. We play no games. And Liam Robbins said hello. Big night for Liam Robbins, 22-8. 22-8 for Liam Robbins. Marcus Carr, the other big man in Minnesota, had 6. We'll discuss them a little bit later, but let's focus on the Michigan part. This is a deflating loss for a team that was on fire. They needed that spark to keep going, and the Big Ten was theirs for the taking. Now they fall back into the crowd. Even though they haven't fallen in the rankings, you feel the deflation.
Yes, it was. I know. I'll quickly touch on Minnesota for a little bit. I said last week that the Golden Gophers aren't golden anymore. Well, I kind of mean my words because they kind of went out and proved it. They got the revenge because Minnesota, like a week prior to playing this game against Michigan, they actually got smacked by them. So they returned the favor in Minnesota by smacking them back. And that's what happens because Hunter Dickinson still had a decent game or put up stats that were decent for the team in that game, but they were still only put up 57 points, which is usually unheard of for Michigan. So it's a little concerning, but it's their first loss of the season. It was eventually going to come at some point because not every team is perfect. So, but I think this Michigan team, I know it's the Yellow M. We've talked about them for 3 straight weeks, but they've been a huge talking point in this top 25 rankings because after a loss, they didn't move just because of all the rankings that are going up and down. But Michigan, we'll see if they can continue to stay up here and stick with themselves. It's their first loss. Do they come crumbling down after this first loss, or do they redeem themselves in a little bit of an easier week with Maryland and Purdue upcoming, 2 unranked teams? And if you continue to look down in the rest of their schedule, the next 2 weeks, they got IU, Northwestern, and Michigan State, all 5 unranked teams. So Michigan's kind of riding that lucky wave where they are getting the teams at the right time. So I think this Michigan team, based on their schedule, should not be moving anywhere soon, but you never know. It's the NCAA basketball.
That is very correct, and at least they bounced back quickly. They're up 21 as we speak on Maryland. Michigan, they got a lot of different pieces there. It's not just Hunter Dickinson. You got Shawnee Brown, Mike Smith. You got plenty of players there at Michigan who can put up stats on any given night. We'll move on, but not for long because we're stopping pretty quick. Houston's at number 8. They finally listened to me. Houston, couple of big wins. They were up by 25 at half on UCF on Saturday. Extremely impressive. Or was that Sunday? It may have been Sunday. I correct myself. It was Sunday. Mm-hmm. Big day for Houston. That game alone will put them up 3. And we'll stop right back again. Kansas, down 3 from last week because last week they lost to Oklahoma State, but things got worse last night, didn't they, Ethan?
Oh, yes, because Kansas is not only now ranked number 9, but they're on a 2-game losing streak. 2 games. They have dropped to a record of now 3-4 after losing to number 2 Baylor, 77-69. They were never really in this game against them because they were down at least, I think, 8 points, and they were trying to catch up the entire game. Got to a point where they were down 15 at one point against the Baylor Bears. But Kansas tried to crawl their way back, couldn't find a way to do it, and the Jayhawks lose again. Does this mean they're going to be dropping even more? Could be dropping out of the top 10. I think so, because they're on a losing streak, and that's never a good sign for a team to try and be in the top 10. So we could very well see Kansas, after a very hot streak so far, at least a week since the start of the season, they've been deserving of a top 25 spot, beginning to crumble down to the floor. So Kansas not looking too good.
This is the thing with Kansas. Last couple of years, we've known them with their prospects, Devon Dotson, Udoka Azubuike. They've been there. So they were both 4-year college basketball studs at Kansas. Slate's been wiped clean. A bunch of new players in Kansas. We discussed this earlier on in the season. This is not the same Jayhawks team. It isn't. It's plain and simple. This is not the team we knew before, and they're starting to feel it. Their leading scorer, Ochai Agbaji, only averaging 15. His team averaged a lot more than that on a given night from Devon Dotson. Best season, he averaged 22 a game. For a college player, is extremely impressive. Kansas is in trouble. They're underdogs against Oklahoma on Saturday. Underdogs against Oklahoma. No, this isn't football. It's insane. You never expected to see something like that or something like this. And it's quite a shock. Kansas is not the same team, and they will not be in the top 10 next week. A couple of big losses piling up on themselves, and there's a lot of teams below them that have things to say, primarily the one we'll talk about here in a second, unless you have anything to say about Kansas after that.
Nope. I think they're just going to be falling.
All righty. Number 10, we have Wisconsin, Big Ten team out of Michigan, the Badgers. Tough loss to Michigan. There's no question. 23-point losses like that are brutal. They made a good comeback against Rutgers to see what they can do this week. Not a lot of big, tough teams in the Big Ten they got it coming up. And then Creighton, we'll stop here again. Number 11, and Ethan, this is all yours.
Well, there's a reason why it's all mine, because my Butler Bulldogs right here came out and upset the Creighton Blue Jays at home. They used to be ranked number 8, and they went in kind of as a Butler team that has not been looking good in the slightest so far this season. We're a very, very, very young team trying to still develop, and we had troubles with turnovers and all the typical like freshman and sophomore issues that you usually have. We got a statement win right here in the Big East, as we were able to go out and basically pull off an overtime win against Creighton. Yes, Creighton has been without their star player Zagorowski for the last 2 games, and I think he's going to be continuing to be out for a few more weeks, or at least another week. I don't know for sure if he's going to be if he's going to be back in 2 weeks, but we were able to take full advantage of that, and we were able to go in overtime. The game should not have gone to overtime, in my opinion, because we missed 3 straight game-winning shots right as time went out in the second half before we went to overtime. But Butler was able to still pull it off, so go Dogs. But focusing now more on Creighton, I mean, this is a huge loss to them, as they've been able to be stable within the at least a stable second right behind Villanova, basically right behind their heels, waiting to see if Villanova will ever lose, and they'll be able to take advantage of it and hop back up into first for the Big East. But this loss is devastating to them, because they are now going to drop. This is their, I believe, third loss of the season, and their, I think, second loss of the Big East. So not good for Creighton's standpoint. They dropped 3 spots, but we'll see if Zagorowski can get back so they could or he could come back and fix this offense, because Creighton does not usually only score below 70 points. Where my Butler team, I'm just happy to finally score 70 points.
Creighton, again, they're going to be the forgotten Big East team, because that is such a powerful conference, and they're not the team in the Big East. This is definitely a rough year for the Big East in general. This is not the same power conference we've known.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when Villanova comes back, I assume they'll establish their dominance, which, by the way, again, is tonight. All right, we'll move through speed round here. Texas Tech, congratulations on a big win over Texas. We just talked about it. They're up 3. We'll talk more about Virginia in a minute. They're up 5. Big win. West Virginia, down 1. COVID issues again, like we've discussed. They will be out now for many, many weeks. They do not have a scheduled game up this week. Number 15, Ohio State. Huge win over Illinois on Saturday, and now they're up by 3, but they're holding on against Purdue. But they're up 6. Let's see if they can keep up tonight. Virginia Tech is at number 16, a big win this week as well. They took down Wake Forest and Duke. I guess that's fine. All right. That'll get you up 4 for some reason. Minnesota, as we said, big win. They took down unbeaten Michigan at 17. And now the train stops at number 18 with sweet home Alabama. Alabama has made it a 3-team race in the SEC, especially with what we're seeing tonight out of Tennessee. Good Lord. But Alabama, yeah, this isn't football. This basketball. Alabama has put their hat in the ringer. They have done a fantastic job. Jaden Shackelford averaging 14 for this team. But it's not about the offense. It's about the defense. They are a top efficiency defensive team. The SEC is pretty much defense at the core. A lot of big staple big men in the SEC. Alabama's on a big winning streak. I do not believe to this point they have lost a game in the SEC. They have not. They are 6-0. It's kind of weird talking about Alabama as a top college basketball program, but they are on the rise right now. The Crimson Tide, a team to watch out for. Not only that, they do not have a big challenge coming up. Their next ranked game is against Missouri, February 6th, Saturday. So they got a long way to go before they play a tough team. Expect to see Alabama on this list to keep climbing for a little while here.
You never will usually see a Alabama team like this high up in the rankings. But so far, I think when you're first in the SEC, I mean, this is absolutely a down year for the SEC. When Kentucky is that far down, we'll get into them later. But when Alabama is being able to lead the SEC and play as well as they have, like when you say defensive efficiency, to put that into perspective, they've only allowed over 80 points once this season on defense, where they've been able to score above 80 points in almost all of their games they have played so far. Actually, 2, if you include the loss to Stanford. But I think this Alabama team is a little bit sneaky good when you're able to pull off a win against a Tennessee team like they did a few weeks prior. I think they are beginning to prove themselves that they are a decent team to a force to reckon with. I know it's weird to be seeing them and to be talking about them in NCAAM, meaning basketball, instead of NCAAF, meaning football. But this is a new year, a new decade, and we'll see if Alabama can continue to keep going.
Indeed, good sir. And now we move quickly on to number 19 with Missouri. Just talked about it, the SEC. They're number 3 though now because Alabama's really pushing that SEC crown. Oh boy, and we've reached the point.
Yep.
A week ago, I made a very, very interesting statement on this channel, ripping into the souls of the Clemson Tigers. Not only because their football team decided to not show up, but because their basketball team went up 7 by winning an overtime game. Hoorah!
Wow.
Wow! And guess who they played this week? Good old Virginia. Oh, would you look at that?
No.
Would you look at that? And they lost by 35. 35.
That's embarrassing.
35. I called it. Clemson overrated. The ACC in general overrated. That's it. That's all I got. I just had to say that.
Yeah, Clemson was able to rise up 7 spots out of nowhere to be somehow ranked 12th in the nation. But anybody who watches college basketball knows that is one of the dumbest rankings we've seen so far this season, because they end up dropping, add another spot onto that, but flip it and drop them all the way back down. And another team that went along with them was Louisville. They went up 10 spots, then they dropped 10 spots. So
who called that last week too, by the way?
Yes.
They moved up 10 from just outside the rankings to number 16, and they went from number 16 to wait a minute, right outside the rankings. So
Yep.
double-digit drops and rises back-to-back weeks. This is what happens when you give teams such a big jump for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm.
You do not give a team that big of a boost, albeit in a crazy week, even when there's so many teams losing. You won an overtime game against a terrible SEC program. Sorry, South Carolina. But you guys, it was North Carolina.
Overrated.
You get the point. Whatever. Overrated. Done. Oregon's at number 21. This was Ethan's favorite team until he ended up going to college. The Ducks, yeah, fair enough. Their game against a team we'll talk about here in a second got postponed today. The two Pac-12 teams that are sitting here at the top. Illinois. I love Illinois. We live here in Illinois.
Yep.
This team's in huge trouble. Back-to-back losses on Maryland and Ohio State. They got to pick it up. UConn, another one that's unfortunate. Talked about them last week. We love seeing the Big East. I love seeing the Huskies up here. They just lost to St. John's for the first time in 21 years at home against them. They will be out of these rankings next week. We'll stop here for the final time. UCLA, the other Pac-12 team, finally gets in. They're at number 24. Ethan, what you got?
They are finally at the rankings of number 24. Why? Because they are first in the Pac-12. They are 7-0, undefeated. Took them a little bit longer than I think they would have hoped to finally reach this top 25 rankings, as they've tried to attempt to prove that they do deserve to be up here, as they have been on a 6-game winning streak. And they look like, it was supposed to be this Oregon UCLA game that we were going to be seeing who is going to be the legit top of the Pac-12 for these next few weeks. And that game got postponed, unfortunately. So we don't know just yet, although they're keeping the suspense going for it. But UCLA still sits up at the top of it. They still haven't lost a game, and their wins are looking pretty decent in the Pac-12. They've beaten teams like a Washington State team that was undefeated headed into Pac-12 play. They beat a Washington team that is always a reliable team in this Pac-12 that always finds a way to put up a fight. And they beat Colorado, who's ranked number 27 technically in voting right now. So they are proving that they deserve to be up here. And with these, the fact that they're going to be missing today's game is going to hurt them because they're not going to be able to play. But they got another game against a weak Cal team coming up this week, and then talk about a week from, I think today. No, 2 days from now. So 9 days from now, they will be playing Oregon, and then they will be determining if they do deserve to be this high in the rankings, and it will be pretty much for the hierarchy in the Pac-12.
The 4-team race in the Pac-12, though. Colorado and USC are in that race as well. They're just sitting outside the top 25. Pac-12, sneaky good conference this year. They got a lot of teams that have been playing well, and then a lot of teams that are playing terrible. Oregon State's still bad as usual. All right, final team here, number 25, St. Louis. The Billikens had a game, their first game in 3 weeks, scheduled for tomorrow night. Postponed again. They are just getting really unlucky. We hope to see them back in action soon. Hopefully they get a chance to stay in the rankings, but at this point, I don't see it. Finally, before we move on, Drake is still unbeaten. We're keeping the watch out for a team that's sitting right there.
Drake watch.
We have Drake watch now. We will keep an eye on them and we'll let you know towards the end. They are 13-0, still going strong. Their next game is Saturday. Ethan, you have a big fun fact for us here at the end and a wild stat. Go for it.
Yes. So for any viewers who are big college football geeks, at least like we are, this stat was probably going to be blowing your mind, as also it's kind of an end of an era, in my opinion, because Kentucky, North Carolina, and now Duke is no longer in the AP top 25. This is the first time all three teams have not been in the top 25 since 1961. My dad wasn't even alive when
it was mine.
That was that. So that is unbelievable. But when you have Kentucky at a 4-8 overall record, and they're 3-2 in the SEC with a recent loss to an unranked Auburn team that's not even playing in the March Madness, they lost by 10 to them. That's embarrassing. You got a North Carolina team that's 3-3 in the ACC and 8-5 overall. They're pretty much just average. And you got Duke, who is 3-1 in the ACC. Congrats, but they just got spanked by Virginia Tech, 74-67. They are basically The hierarchies are changing. We are no longer seeing the Dukes and the North Carolinas and Kentuckys reign all over, and we've even seen Kansas begin to lose. So, and of course, Michigan State is also not in here. So it is just unbelievable seeing all these dynasties in college basketball begin to fall, and a beginning of a new era in college basketball. But I just wanted to chuck that in just because it was such a crazy, crazy idea that all three teams are no longer in the AP Top 25.
Absolutely wild. And this shows the end of the era. The other thing I have to mention is Kansas is falling as well. That's the even greater part. We are going to end today. It's been a great episode here. Week 9 of the NCAA Top 25 AP poll brought to you here by JTASports. We're going to catch the end of this Ohio State-Purdue game because Purdue has just absolutely climbed back.
Really?
33 seconds left, tie game. We're going to catch the end of this. Hope everybody had a great time. Make sure to like and subscribe. And until then, we'll be here just talking about sports.
See ya.